Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 4 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on. And I got to tell you, I've been watching the NFL almost my entire life. I've been betting on the NFL for the past 12 years. I've been working in the sports betting industry for over 6 years now. I have never seen the start of an NFL season like we have seen this year. You want to talk about unpredictability. You want to talk about some shocking results. I don't know what to think of this NFL season. I had to take a step back when making my picks for week 4 and I had to reevaluate everything. What is going on out there? Underdogs this season, I got the number here in front of me. Underdogs of 5.5 points or more at the closing number. 14-2 against the spread. 10-6 outright. Favorites just lose every game. Big favorites, loss. Big favorite, loss. Big favorite, loss. If you're in a survivor pool this season, and you've lasted to week 4, which shouldn't be a big ask, congratulations. You're in the top, 4.5%? I think most survivor pools are down to 4.5% of entries. I don't know what to think anymore. Forget just covering the spread. Forget about just winning as big favorites. Covering the spread is out of the question. Now, that is to say, I got to admit, it's been a tough start to the 2024 edition of the Road to 272. But is anyone out there having a winning season trying to bet on the NFL unless you're taking big shots at huge underdogs? You're probably in a pretty similar spot to me. I'm sure there's some of you out there that have done pretty well, especially if you're betting, small sample sizes. If you're, just placing a few bets a week, a few that you're really confident in, you're probably in a pretty good spot. Maybe. I think the top 5 picks in the Super Contest every week have lost too. But if you're a volume bettor, if you do something as stupid as I do, is bet on every single NFL game, you're probably in a pretty tough spot. Now, I will say, as unpredictable and shocking as the first 3 weeks of the season has been, we're alive. We're not out of it. It's been a tough start, no question about that. Week 3, 7-9, minus 2.63 units. That brings the record for the road to 272 bets 2024 edition to 22 wins, 25 losses, 1 push, minus 3.38 units. We're only 3.5 units down. We're fine. For as crazy as the start of the season has been, I'll take being down 3.5 units. We can come back from that in 1 week. Now, it's probably not going to happen all in 1 week, but hey, one really good week, 10-6 week, if I have an underdog in there, would be enough to do it. So let's try to get that done this week. I mentioned Survivor Pool earlier. Survivor Pool, if you join the official Bacon Bets podcast edition of the Survivor Pool, you are in, and you're still alive, you're in the final 11. It started with 100 and, got to bring it up here. I'm out, by the way. 161 entries. We are down to the final 11. Basically, you had to just take the Jets this week. Out of the obvious picks, it was the Jets, and if you took anyone else, you lost. Seahawks were, I guess, kind of obvious if you went that direction. Some people went the Bills. But in the Bacon Bets podcast Survivor Pool, it was people who took the Jets. There was 8 people who took the Jets, 3 who took the Seahawks. And you guys you're in the final 11 for, 3.6K? Pretty good. I am out. I took the Bengals. Last week, I don't know. I know I mentioned the Bengals and I mentioned the Jets. Those were my 2 survivor picks in the 2 pools that I'm in. I took the Bengals in the Bacon Bet survivor pool, so I'm out there. I have a pool left in Joe Ostrowski's pool, or I have a pick left in Joe Ostrowski's pool, because in that one I've gone, my 3 weeks were Saints, Texans, Jets. So I'm still alive in that one. That's the entry I'm going to be going off of moving forward in terms of the survivor picks when I give them out at the end of the show. But yeah, wild start to Survivor season. I'm looking at Joe Ostrowski's pool right now. Just week 3, the top 4 most popular teams all got eliminated. It's been a crazy start to the year. Just to recap the rest of last week's picks, I said 7-9 for minus 2.63 units. Overall, best bets, I went 0-5 the week before. Best bets last week, I went 1-4. Chargers lost, Saints lost, Titans lost, 49ers lost, Chiefs did cover against the Falcons. Of course, the one that hit was me fading my own team. Teaser, which I was very confident in, lost. Chargers +8 to the Steelers. I mean, what are you going to do? Justin Herbert went down mid-game. It was over as soon as that happened. But it wouldn't matter because 49ers was the other leg, and the 49ers lost outright to the Rams. Let's take a little step back. Let's take a step back. It's been a wild start to the season. We're going to regroup. We're going to figure things out. I got my picks locked in for week 4. I feel confident about this week. I think we have a better grasp on a lot of these teams than what we had heading into last week. So my handicapping process is a little bit more stats based on this season. I'm throwing some preseason evaluations out the window. Let's get things going this week, my friends. It's time to get back. We were profitable week 1. The last two weeks weren't great, but still, at the end of the day, for how crazy it's been, being down 3.5 units is not the worst thing in the world. So as always, I'm going to break down my best bet for all 16 games this week. I will also be giving out a teaser, and I will be talking Survivor. As I mentioned, I do still have one Survivor entry left in a different Survivor pool, not my own. And I'll be going based off that. So I can't pick the Saints, I can't pick the Texans, I can't pick the Jets. But more on Survivor at the very end of the episode. Let's get into it. Let's get hot. Why not us? It's time to get hot. It is the NFL Week 4 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on. Let's go.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gambler, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, before I get into my pick for Thursday Night Football between the Cowboys and the Giants, I have a confession to make, my friends. I just realized right now, I've already gone through, as I've always done. I've made my picks for all 16 games in Week 4. I didn't follow one of my rules, and it's too late for me to go back. One of my rules for the road to 272 bets is that every single week, I bet on an underdog to win outright. I forgot. I don't have an underdog pick this week. I can't go back. It's too late. My picks are locked in on BetStamp. You can't delete plays once they're locked in on BetStamp, so I can't just double bet a game and then it's going to throw the record off. I can't double bet a game and delete the spread version of it and just put in the money line in on bet. It's in stone. I screwed up. I didn't follow one of my rules. For the first time, this is the 5th year I've done road to 272. I've had an underdog bet every single week. I screwed up. I can't fix it. It's too late. The picks are locked in. I don't have an upset pick this week. That's not good. That's a bad omen. Gambler, the gambling god, is going to come after me for this. This is not good. There is an underdog I would bet on outright. If I could change things, then there is one out there who I'm currently betting on them plus the points. If I could delete one of these plays and make it a money line pick, I would do it, but I can't. So I will tell you when I get to that pick which one would in theory be my upset pick, but for the sake of my record, I can't change things. Because then my official, you can't delete plays on BetStamp. And my official record is on BetStamp. If I put in a second play for a game, it's going to throw, then it's not 272, then it's 273 because I have 2 bets in one game. I'm sorry. I screwed up. Forgive me. I will tell you which underdog it is when I get to it that I would have bet outright. This week, I don't have an underdog play. Next week, I'll have 2 upset picks to make up for it. How about that? Also, by the way, I'm supposed to be the king of upset picks. That's the 3 years ago when I won 25 units that season. I was cashing huge upsets all over the place. Gone away from that. I picked the Chargers as a plus 105 last week. They lose, and then every other underdog wins outright. I got to get back to betting. And I even said it this weekend. I was during Sunday's games, I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, Iain, you got to get back to betting big money line underdogs. That's where your bread is buttered. And what happened? I forgot to bet a single one. That's how far I've strayed from my strategy. I haven't bet a single one this week. Next week, I will have 2 underdogs to make up for it. That's all I can do. I'm sorry, these picks are locked in. But let's get into it. Enough of me yapping. It's time to get into the picks. I'm sorry. Thursday Night Football. It is the Cowboys. It is the Giants on Thursday Night Football in a little NFC East duel. I'm going to take the over in this one, over 44. I don't know what to think of the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot of teams who, yeah, we have a better feel of than what we did heading into the season, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm more confident on what side to bet on them. The Cowboys are one of those teams because their defense stinks. They've allowed 6 yards per play through the first 3 weeks. That's the 5th most in the NFL. Their offense is good. Their offense can move the ball. Dak Prescott, I think, leads the NFL in passing yards right now. But their defense stinks. The Giants, kind of a similar story. Their defense has largely not been good. Their offense, outside of week 1, has looked a lot better ever since they just decided to feed Malik Neighbors. Their offense has been better. They moved the ball pretty well against the Browns this past weekend. So I guess I'll just trust the two offenses. There's another team that I'll talk about later. But what do you do with a team that was supposed to be good? It's supposed to be like a top 3 team in the conference. Their record has not been good, out the gate. Their offense has been good. Their defense has been terrible. Do you just expect that their defense is going to turn things around? I don't know. I'm just going to trust the things I trust at this point, and that's I do trust the Cowboys offense. To be honest, as weird as it is, Daniel Jones has looked pretty good in the last 2 games. I kind of trust the Giants offense more in their defense. I'm just going to bet the over. Mid-40s, it's 44. I'll take the over on Thursday Night Football and just try to get the win and root for some points. Just got a notification from DraftKings. I just won my buddies league for this week. Second place, $16. What a win. All right, moving on to Sunday's slate. Broncos and the Jets. The Denver Broncos are the team this season that I'm going to lose a lot of money on because I've convinced myself that they are better than the market thinks they are, and I was wrong the first 2 weeks, and then last week they drug me back in with that big win. I should have taken Broncos money line last week. Damn. I wanted to, and I didn't. Still, a win was a win, and now I'm back in on the Broncos. So I'm going to take them once again. I think I've bet on the Broncos every week this season. Probably not a winning strategy. I will take them +7, -105 against the New York Jets. The Broncos defense is fantastic. When people keep talking about the Broncos or how about Bo Nix, did not look good in the first 2 weeks, looked pretty decent in week 3. Not enough people are talking about how good the Broncos has been. Broncos defense has been to start the season. Second in the NFL in opponent yards per play. They're giving up just 4.5 yards per snap. They're third in the NFL in opponent yards per pass attempt, giving up just 5.1 yards per throw. Recording a sack on 12.36% of their opponent dropbacks. That's a top 5 mark in the NFL. You're asking the Jets offense led by Aaron Rodgers, who, even though Jets look very good on Thursday night against the Patriots, I think asking them to cover a touchdown spread against a Broncos defense that is as good as this unit is a lot to ask. Also, maybe last week against the Buccaneers was a little bit of a sign that the Broncos offense is waking up a little bit, expanding the playbook for Bo Nix, using his feet a little bit more, moving the ball downfield. Maybe a little bit of a wake-up call. If this number was under a touchdown, I'd probably be taking the Jets. Right now, though, it is at a touchdown +7, -105. I will take the Broncos. Like I said, I can envision this being my team that I would just bet on every single week this season, and I just continue to lose. But hey, it worked for me last week. I'm back on the Broncos this week. +7, -105 against the Jets. Bengals and Panthers. Bryce Young, not good. Not good. This is not an original take, but that's Bryce Young. We already knew he was terrible. And then Andy Dalton immediately made the Panthers look like an NFL team. Because before, the Panthers looked like they'd lose to Georgia. You put Andy Dalton in, he makes like 3 passes, and it's like, that's an NFL quarterback. So now the question is, moving forward after what happened this past week, do we expect Andy Dalton to look like that every single week? Because that wasn't just normal quarterback play. Andy Dalton looked very good. I think he's the only quarterback in the NFL maybe Josh Allen did tonight. But before Monday night, I think he was the only quarterback this season to throw for 300 yards and 3 passing touchdowns in a single game. Who would have thought? So do we treat the Panthers like they're going to be that good offensively every game moving forward? Or was that a little bit of an anomaly game for the Carolina Panthers offense? I don't know. We don't know that yet. And they're playing a team that is probably in a little bit of a similar situation, the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you do with the Bengals? Their defense has been bad. Their offense, at least the last 2 weeks, look good. So just another over bet. Give me the over. Bengals, Panthers over 47.5, minus 110. I don't think the Panthers are going to look as good offensively as they did last week, but they will not look as bad as they did with Bryce Young. My question with the Bengals is still their defense. Their defense is still in the bottom 10 in just about every single metric. Their secondary is giving up 7.2 yards per throw. That ranks 26th in the NFL. So I'd rather just bet on their offense and take the over. A similar thing can be said for the Bengals. And of all, the craziness that has happened early in the season, I'm now going to contradict myself, because in the Bacon Bet Survivor Pool, I took the Bengals this week. But I did bet on the Commanders with the points. And heading into the season, I was not high on the Bengals whatsoever. So their defense is one of the worst in the NFL. I said the market still treats them like they're a Super Bowl, an AFC champion playing in the Super Bowl type of team from a few years ago. They're not that team. They were lucky to get to the Super Bowl that year. They got hot when it mattered. Overall, their roster, especially their defense, not good. Zach Taylor, not a good coach. Secondary, one of the worst in the NFL. I think Jaden Daniels threw for 9.9 yards per throw against the Bengals tonight. Not good. So long and short of it is, both these teams, I trust their offenses much more than I trust their defenses. Anytime that happens, when I don't feel, strongly either way on the spread, I will take the over. 47.5 Bengals, Panthers. Eagles, Buccaneers. The Eagles and the Buccaneers are going through the NFC South gauntlet. 2 weeks ago, they played the Falcons, lost. Last week, they played the Saints. That was a win. Now they take on the Buccaneers. And I'm going to go with the Eagles minus 2.5 here, minus 110. Eagles defense is the reason why I bet on the Saints this past week. And it was, I had a few heartbreaking losses this past week. The Saints was certainly one of them. But at the end of the day, if I get to see the Saints lose, I'm not going to complain too much. But it was the Eagles defense was the reason why I bet against them and why I took the Saints. The Eagles defense then looked significantly better against the Saints this past week than they did the first 2 weeks of the season. So maybe they figured something out there. But you know what unit hasn't figured things out? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. No one is really talking about how bad the Buccaneers defense is. They're giving up 5.5 yards per play. They're giving up 4.9 yards per rush attempt, so they're very gettable on the ground. And now they have to take on one of the better rush attacks, the Eagles, which has been a huge bright spot for Philadelphia, is how well they've been able to run the ball with Saquon Barkley this season. Eagles averaging 5 yards per carry. While also the Eagles have defense, also has not done a good job of stopping the run, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can't run the ball. Only 4 yards per carry for the Bucs. So I think we got a good strength versus weakness, and weakness versus strength, I guess, in this game. I think the market has dipped on the Eagles a little bit because of that last second loss to the Falcons. I don't think that it's corrected themselves yet. I think the Eagles win in convincing fashion this week, and then the market goes back to the way it was preseason when they were pricing this team like an NFC contender. So I'm going to buy some stock in the Eagles right now. I will take the minus 2.5 against the Buccaneers, who at times when they're at the best, the Buccaneers will look good offensively. Their defense is never going to look good. So it's either Baker Mayfield in the offense has a good game, and they're going to be, when Baker Mayfield in the offense has an A-plus game, they're going to be able to beat anyone. But when they don't, their defense is going to cost them. And I think that's what happens this week. I'll take the Eagles. Rams and the Bears. One of the most shocking results from this past week was, I don't know how the 49ers lost to that Rams team. With how few pieces the Rams had, and the 49ers were like up 10 points in the fourth quarter, and then I was like, yeah, they're going to cover. The whole game, I was like, yeah, 49ers are going to cover. Yeah, even, up 10 points in the fourth quarter. They blink and they lost outright. Don't know how that happened. I'm going to bet against them again, against the Bears. I'm going to take the Bears -3, -108. Even though they came back and won that game against the 49ers, I can't get past their injury report. I'm basically fading them for the same reason I faded the Rams last week. They're not getting anyone back. You still got, just to name a few, Cooper Kupp, Jonah Jackson, John Johnson, Puka Nacua, Steve Avila, Joe Noteboom, Darius Williams. Half their team is hurt and not playing this week. Sure, they beat the 49ers last week. That's not enough to convince me that they're now going to just beat everyone they play. And not only do they have the injuries, their defense has been the worst defense in the NFL, giving up 6.8 yards per play through the first 3 weeks. That's the worst mark. No team has given up more yards per play than the Rams. Even last week when they beat the 49ers still outgained them in yards per play. And I know the Bears have their issues. They have their issues offensively. But if there's any defense that Caleb Williams can have a good game against, it's the Rams, who can't do anything. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. The best unit in this game is the Bears defense. So I think the Bears defense can keep them in this game. I think their offense, especially at home, can get clicking a little bit, at least a little bit more than we saw the first 3 weeks. I will lay the field goal with the Bears minus 108. Saints and Falcons, big game for my Falcons. Big game for my Falcons. Big one. I didn't talk about at the top about the Falcons Sunday Night Football game against the Chiefs. If you kind of want my full thoughts on that, because that's kind of not betting related, watch Stacking the Box Monday morning, the morning after. I kind of went on a rant about it. At the end of the day, the Falcons had their chances. I'll say two things really quick, and then I'll just get into my pick for the Saints game. Was that defensive pass interference in the end zone? Yes. Does it seem like the Chiefs get the biggest calls in the most pivotal moments on every single game that they play? Yes. Has it happened all 3 weeks? Yes. Isaiah Likely's toenail went out of bounds week 1. They got a defensive pass interference call in week 2 against the Bengals, and then there was one against them in week 3 that wasn't called. That's the Chiefs. The Falcons still had chances. They had 3rd and 2. Ran the ball twice, didn't get a first down, game over. A lot of people are questioning the 4th down play that the Falcons had. It was like a wishbone stretch zone. Here's the issue with that play call. You know what play call people like on 4th down? The one that gets a first down. So I don't love it. I would have ran something else. If I was offensive coordinator, I probably would have ran something else. But I've never seen a 4th down not be converted and people be like, you know what, that was the right play call. No matter what you do, if a team runs up the middle on 4th down, they go, oh, that was predictable. You ran up the middle. You could have been a little bit more creative. If they throw the ball on 4th down and don't get it, they're like, what are you doing throwing the ball on 4th down? Why didn't you just run it? If you run the ball, but you run a stretch, a little bit of a less predictable play, an outside run play, they think, what are you doing running east and west when you only need a yard on 4th down? Just hand it up the middle. You can't win. If you don't convert, it was the wrong play call. I mean, just look at last weekend against the Eagles and the Falcons. I mean, the other game that the Falcons were in. The Eagles on 4th down, I guess that was 3rd down, to be fair. They weren't going to go for it on 4th. But on 3rd down, they ran a pass play to Saquon Barkley, wide open. He dropped it. The rest is history in that game. Eagles fans shitting on that play call because why didn't you just run the football? It would have been easy to get a couple yards if you just ran the football. Well, the Falcons were 3rd and 2, ran the ball twice and didn't get it. And then Falcons fans are pissed. Why didn't you do something else other than run outside? Listen, if it worked, it would have been a great play call. If they ran up the middle and didn't get it, it would have been a bad play call. You can't win on 4th down if you don't get it. I've never seen anyone say, you know what? They didn't get the first down on 4th down, but you know what is the right play call. I've never seen that ever. They'll criticize no matter what you do. I saw a lot of people saying they should have ran a QB sneak. They run a QB sneak and they don't get it. They'll say, why didn't you hand it to Tyler Algier? He's a linebacker, a running back. You can't win. So, tough loss at the end of the day. We hung with the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champs. I said we were going to be 1-2 after the first 3 weeks. We're 1-2 after the first 3 weeks. Now we got a big game at home to the Saints. I'm going to take my Dirty Birds. I'm back in. Even though we lost, I'm back in. The Falcons have played one of the most difficult schedules through the first 3 weeks. The Steelers, who are 3-0, then the Eagles, and the Chiefs. And even with those first 3 games, they're 7th in the NFL in net yards per play, plus 0.8. Plus 0.2 yards better than the Saints, who have had the benefit of playing the Panthers in week 1, who they beat up on. And the Saints defense, I don't think, is as good as some people think that it is. There's 18th in opponent yards per play, once again, with one of those 3 games coming against the Panthers. They allowed the Eagles to get 6.9 yards per snap against them. In preseason, The Falcons were the significant favorites to win the NFC South, meaning for the most part, the market evaluated the Falcons as the better team. This game is in Atlanta, but the Falcons are just 1.5 point favorites, which means on neutral field, I guess the Saints would be a point favored, maybe half a point favored. At the worst, it'd be a pick 'em at a neutral field. It's not a pick 'em. The Falcons are the better team than the Saints. I think the Falcons should be -2, -2.5. I wouldn't put it at a field goal. I'll put -2, -2.5. So I like the value here of the Falcons at 1.5. Falcons -1.5, -110 against the Saints in a big game. Now we got the NFC South gauntlet. We got Saints, Bucks, Panthers. Get ready, by the way, because you get to see the Falcons on primetime football again next week, Thursday night, against the Bucks. We got to win at least 2 of those games, at least. Ideally, all 3. Falcons -1.5. Next up, we have the Jaguars and the Texans. I am going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars once again. I mean, there's no spot that's a more buy low spot than this week on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I didn't catch what the line was before Monday Night Football. I'm guessing it was shorter than 6.5. Here's the issue with the Jaguars, and this is why I want to buy low on them this week by taking them 6.5 against the Texans. The Jaguars didn't play as bad as the final score indicated in both week 1 and week 2. Week 1 against the Dolphins, week 2 against the Browns. Week 1, they just had some weird things go against them. They had, what was it? It was like, was it a guy who was walking in the end zone and fumbled, and then Miami went down and scored or they scored like the next play on Tyreek Hill with Tyreek Hill. Am I thinking of that right? They were deep in the Dolphins' red zone with a chance to go up with an insurmountable lead. Something happened. I forget, was it a penalty? Was it a turnover? Whatever it was, then the Dolphins scored on like a 70-yard play with Tyreek Hill and then went down and kicked the game-winning field goal later. Bad luck there. Against the Browns, they outplayed them, but they couldn't get in the end zone every time they got to the red zone. 2 games that if 1 or 2 plays went their way, they'd be 2-0. But they weren't. Those plays went against them. They were 0-2, and then they went and played Buffalo tonight, and that was a terrible performance. My point is, now when people are thinking of the Jaguars, and I think the market is thinking this as well, they're thinking of tonight's performance against the Bills, which was admittedly terrible. One of the worst. I think it might be actually the worst single performance we've seen in the NFL this season. And now they're thinking Jaguars are 0-3. Most people, because the other games were in the afternoon, they're probably just watching Red Zone. Most people, this is the first full game they watched the Jaguars. They're thinking this Jaguars team stinks. Are they good? No. They are better. This was a bad game. This was an F- game for them against the Bills. They're better than they looked against the Bills. They shouldn't be 6.5 point underdogs to the Texans. The Texans team, which, let me remind you, even though they're 2-1, hasn't beat up on anyone. They didn't cover the spread against Chicago, a bad Chicago team. Didn't cover the spread against them in week 2. Didn't cover the spread against a bad Colts team in week 1. And they got beat up on it by Minnesota. Texans, even though this is like people are a little too high on the Texans and too low on the Jaguars. To me, that makes this Jaguars plus 6.5 the obvious bet. I set this at 5.5. Maybe even less. 6.5, I'll take the Jaguars. It's ugly. They could just lose, they could just look just like they did tonight. But I think this 6.5 is a little bit of an overreaction, people. Jaguars plus 6.5. Vikings, Packers. I'm guessing based on the lines, people expect Jordan Love to be back this week, although that's not been confirmed because the Packers are 3-point home favorites. Now, saying that, they've won both games Malik Willis has started. I'm in on the Vikings. I'll take Minnesota +3, -118. I think DraftKings had that number. I'm just going to verify right now. Things could change by the time you listen. Actually, it's at DraftKings back down to 2.5. Let me see if that was DraftKings. I bet that out. It was DraftKings. So I got there was a line at DraftKings that's verified. I bet it. It was +3 -118. Now it's down to 2.5. If you can get a +3, get it. I like the Vikings regardless, though. Listen, you guys know there's nothing I love more than calling a team fraudulent. There's going to be people out there calling the Vikings frauds, and if they were, I would say it. But I'm a slave to the numbers, and you're talking about a Minnesota team that has played both the Texans and the 49ers already this season. Not exactly an easy start to their schedule. Not only are they 3-0, second in the NFL in net yards per play. Plus 1.3. Sam Darnold truthers, I might have to apologize. I'm not ready to apologize to Sam Darnold truthers yet, especially those of you who said Sam Darnold's better than Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's been playing pretty good this season too. So let's relax on that a little bit. But I am now a believer in the Vikings. Even if Jordan Love plays, well, I think this line indicates Jordan Love playing. If Jordan Love plays, the line's probably not going to move too much. It'll probably be 2.5, 3. If Malik Willis is announced as the starter, this might move, and it might be more of like a pick'em, which I would love even more. But even if Jordan Love plays, I'm not confident he's going to look good coming off a MCL sprain. Seems a little quick of a return to me. Vikings defense has been unbelievable. Their offense has been great. Justin Jefferson's still, arguably the best receiver in the NFL. I'm in, Minnesota fans. I'm in. And I do have a history of, 2 years ago, I was vocal about calling them frauds. I'm in. Which is probably, means the death of the Vikings, which means they lose to the Packers this week by 20. But there you have it. That's halfway through the picks. 8 picks down, 8 to go. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back to give out my picks for the rest of the games. All right, we're going to keep things moving. First of all, though, I do need to remind you to subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. Please, that helps me out a ton. But with that out of the way, let's get into the picks for the other 8 games for Week 4 of the NFL season. Starting with the Steelers and the Colts. Maybe the Steelers aren't frauds. There's Steelers fans in my DMs. One guy told me that the Steelers are the best defense in the NFL, and it's a wide gap between the second best. Let's relax a little on that. Relax a little. But I am going to trust in the Steelers defense this week because the total, at least as of when I locked in my bets, was at 40 for the Steelers and the Colts. My only total bet last week was the under in the Colts and the Bears. That hit very easily. I am shocked the total for this game is not in the 30s. Let me see if it's still at 40 as of now. I bet on this probably 2 hours ago. Colts Steelers, there's even a 40.5 available out there. So there you go. This is insane. The Steelers defense, now I'm not going to say they're the best defense in the NFL with a wide gap between the second best defense. But still, defense has been very, very good. Third in opponent yards per play, second in opponent points per play. Even more importantly, especially when it comes to an under, they lead the NFL in red zone defense. Teams are scoring just 16.67% of the time they get down in the red zone against the Steelers. And then they have the offense, which is 28th in yards per play, 4.6 yards per play. You got the Colts, a big reason why I took the under in the Colts game last week. Anthony Richardson does not look good. He's inaccurate. He hits some deep shots and can run the ball, but that's just about it. The Colts defense has been decent. If you ask me what is a prototypical under team, it would be the Steelers. Why is this total at 40? I actually think the Steelers have allowed the fewest points per game, right? Yeah, 8.7. So they're allowing 8.7 points per game, and they are scoring the 8th fewest, 17. So they're scoring 17 points per game. They're allowing 8.7 points per game. So just some quick math, and yes, I'm using a calculator. Their average combined points through the first 3 weeks is 25.7. Why is the total at 40 for this? Now, if you want to be one of those tinfoil hat bettors, one of those bettors that when a line makes absolutely no sense, you just do the opposite. You do the move that makes no sense. If you're one of those bettors, pound the over because this total, this is my best bet of the week. I don't see how. I don't know. Maybe it's too obvious, but I'll take the bait. This is the most obvious under bet in the world. Steelers, Colts, under 40, minus 110. Patriots and 49ers. It's an ugly one. It's an ugly one, but hey, maybe based on what has happened so far this season, I should be taking the Patriots to win outright. But I'm going to take the Patriots plus 10, minus 105. This is a bet against the 49ers. There's two things that worry me about the 49ers. Number one is injuries. Christian McCaffrey, obviously still out. Deebo Samuel, out. George Kittle, out. Brock Purdy is now day-to-day with a back injury. Reports are he's likely still going to play this weekend, but I couldn't risk laying 10 points on the 49ers. I mean, this is a big disadvantage that where I have to lock in all my bets Monday night. A massive disadvantage is like there's injury news about some teams that I'm not going to know the answer of until closer to the weekend. So I have to kind of guess. Another one is the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Don't know if Justin Herbert's playing this weekend. Had to bet that game anyways. I can't risk laying 10 points on the 49ers and then Brock Purdy's out. Then I'm screwed. So injuries is one thing. Not only is Brock Purdy questionable, but almost every other, significant player on offense is out. The other thing is the San Francisco defense has been bad this season. I'm blanking on the name of their defensive coordinator last season, but their defense last year was like below average, and a lot of people think it's what cost them the Super Bowl. They then fired that defensive coordinator, and they brought in Nick Sorensen. And they claimed, okay, that now our defense is fixed. Now we have what it takes to win the Super Bowl. We got rid of our defense coordinator. We have a better defense coordinator. He's going to fix things. Through the first 3 weeks, and their opponents have been the Jets, the Minnesota Vikings, and a banged up, to say the least, LA Rams team. They're allowing 6.1 yards per play. That's the third worst mark in the NFL. They're also 30th in opponent third down conversion percentage, 31st in red zone defense. Their defense has been a bottom 5 unit, which is a huge red flag. That's a huge cause for concern for the 49ers. So you're telling me you got an offense who all your key players are questionable or out. You got a defense that's been terrible all season, and now you're asking me to lay 10 points on them. Can't do it. Can't do it, won't do it. I don't like betting the Patriots any more than you probably do. But a 10-point spread, especially with how the season has gone with big underdogs so far, I will take the New England Patriots plus 10, minus 105. Commanders and Cardinals. This line was minus 5.5 in favor of the Cardinals. After the Commanders win against the Bengals, it has dropped 2 points down to minus 3.5, and I will jump all over that. Did I see anything from the Commanders tonight that made me, look at them as 2 points better than I did before the game? No, not really. I took the Commanders plus the points. I know that I said they had a bad defense, but their offense has actually moved the ball a lot better than people thought heading into tonight. And their offense had an A-plus game. The Bengals defense isn't good enough to keep them in it. The Bengals offense had some chances, but couldn't get it done. So I evaluate the command. If I were to set the line for this game, I'd probably make it Cardinals minus 4.5. So if the line stayed at 5.5, I probably would have taken the Commanders. But with it dropping from 5.5 to 3.5, now I flip sides. Now I'm on the Cardinals. Commanders, as good as their offense looked tonight, defensively, they got a lot of issues. Bengals had 7.3 yards per play against them. They're 31st in the NFL in opponent yards per play. Their secondary is abysmal. Kyler Murray is going to carve up this secondary. In order for them to win games, they need Jaden Daniels and the offense to have an A-plus game. That's what they had against the Bengals. But asking a rookie quarterback to have an A-plus game every single week is too much. If he has a B game, that's probably not going to be enough with that defense. So I will take the Cardinals minus 3.5, minus 108 at home. Chiefs and Chargers, I mentioned this game earlier. I don't know what to do in this game. I'm screwed having to bet this game on Monday night. Right now, it's Chiefs minus 8. I'm not betting the Chargers plus 8, and then it gets announced on Wednesday that Justin Herbert's out, and then I'm screwed. So I'm going to take the Chiefs minus 8. I guess. If there is one game I could veto and not bet on, it'd be this one. With that being said, the Chiefs haven't looked that good this season. They're 3-0, but they're 21st in net yards per play, minus 0.3. They're a team that's going to win games, but win games by 3 points because someone's toe was out of bounds or the ref didn't call defensive pass interference, or the ref did call defensive pass. They're going to continue to win games, but asking this team, based on how they've played so far this season, to cover an 8-point spread is risky business. But not only do the Chargers have Justin Herbert, who's questionable, both their offensive tackles are out. Joe Alt's going to miss a few weeks. The other guy's going to miss some time. They're one of the most top-heavy teams in the NFL. They have no depth. I'm not betting on the Chargers against the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champs with no offensive tackles and maybe Taylor Heineke as their quarterback. I'll lay the 8 points. I'm chalking this up as a loss already. If you're listening to this, don't and you don't know the status of Justin Herbert yet, don't bet it. If I knew Justin Herbert was playing even with both tackles out, I think I would take the 8 points of the Chargers. But I can't risk that happening. I have to bet this game. Make up your own mind about this game. I don't like the total. I don't like the side. I don't like the injury reports. I don't like how the Chiefs have played. I don't like betting against the Chiefs. I don't like betting on the Chiefs. I'll take the Chiefs. -110. Browns against the Raiders. I'm going to take the Raiders at home. I got them +1.5 and -118. This is an interesting line because some sports books have the Raiders as 1-point favorites. Some sports books have the Raiders as 1-point underdogs. Where I bet it, which is just checking. FanDuel, they're +1.5 at -118, so that's what I took. I will not be betting on the Browns while Deshaun Watson is their starting quarterback anymore. Last week, I took the Giants, thankfully. I guess I've bet against the Browns last 2 weeks. I guess they did win and cover against the Jaguars, but that was more the Jaguars losing than the Browns winning that game. Cleveland is averaging 3.8 yards per play. Deshaun Watson has been sacked on 12.12% of his dropbacks. I just can't bet on them. I mean, they just got mollywopped by the Giants. And I'm not overreacting because not only their offensive line's already banged up, which is why he got sacked 8 times, I think, in that game. Now their all-pro guard Wyatt Teller is also on the IR. So they're like their entire offensive line is out. Deshaun Watson can't throw the ball. I saw a replay of the fourth down play they called at the end of the game. It was designed to hit a guy on the out. The Deshaun Watson watched the guy. The guy ran the out, was wide open, and then Deshaun Watson just didn't throw the ball, tried to run, and got sacked. There needs to be studies about what happened to old Deshaun Watson versus new Deshaun Watson. He sucks. When Jameis Winston gets put in, and he will get put in soon, I'm going to reevaluate the Browns. Until that happens, I'll be betting on them against them every single week because they suck. Deshaun Watson might be worse than Bryce Young. Seriously, he might be. I'll take Raiders +1.5, -118. Sunday night football. This is a must-watch one. This is going to be a fun one. Might be the two most fun teams to watch in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills against the Baltimore Ravens. I took the Ravens -1, -110. So with the Bills playing tonight, the games involving Monday Night Football teams, I bet as soon as the lines are re-released, the next, like right after the game starts or ends. So I got a good line on this, and you're not going to be able to find this line anymore. I'm sorry. I bet it at, I can even tell you what time I bet it at. I bet this line at 11:04 p.m. Eastern at DraftKings Sportsbook. It is now 1:14 a.m. Oh my God, it's late. I got to get to bed. It's 1:14 a.m. So it's 2 hours after I bet it by the time I'm now recording this. And it's Ravens -2.5. So I think this is one of the situations because I set the Ravens at -1.5. So I bet the Ravens because I thought it was half a point. At 2.5, I think I actually kind of like the Bills. So this is a situation I don't really know what to do in terms of content and what I'm telling you because I like the Ravens when I got them a -1. A 1.5 point shift at +2.5, I kind of like the Bills. I'll tell you why I like the Ravens to win this game because I do like them to win. Covering 2.5 is a little bit of a bigger ask. 1 and 2 this season, the Ravens are, but they're 5th in the NFL in net yards per play. Their offense is averaging 6.6 yards per play. That's the best mark in the NFL. But most importantly, their defense has been extremely good at stopping the run. They lead the NFL in opponent yards per carry. Teams are getting just 2.8 yards per rush against them. That's the fewest in the NFL by 0.7 yards per carry. That's going to be tough for the Bills to face because the Bills have changed their offense this season to be very much a run-first offense. They're top 5 in the NFL in run play percentage. If they don't get the ball moving against the Ravens on the ground, that's when things could get a little bit tricky for the Bills. They've been able to run successfully the first 3 weeks. If they can't, we haven't seen them yet where they've tried to run the ball that hasn't worked. If that happens against the Ravens, things could get weird for them. So I do like the Ravens to win this game. Maybe at the current line, I even kind of like the over because I think these two teams might be first and second in yards per play. Based on how the Bills played tonight against the Jaguars. So it might just be, hey, bet the over, sit back and root for points. I couldn't foresee the line. I thought the line was going to shift half a point in favor of the Ravens. I didn't think it was going to shift 1.5 points. So if the line's still at 2.5, I actually kind of do slightly lean the Bills, or just bet the over. If it goes back to 1, then I like the Ravens. For my record, I like Ravens -1, -110. That is my bet that I have locked in. Monday, we got another Monday Night Football doubleheader. I had people tweeting at me this weekend saying, Iain, please stop betting on the Tennessee Titans. I replied to one guy, said, but they play the Dolphins this week. Titans -1.5 at even money. I don't think I can bet on the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. They got 3.7 yards per play against the Seahawks last week. Skylar Thompson looked terrible. Oh, I was so high on the Dolphins heading into this season, too. So high on them. They stink. Mike McDaniel's got to figure some things out. And I think I saw during that broadcast or heard that the past 2 or 3 seasons they have the most offsides and offsides and illegal formations in the NFL. I heard a theory that Mike McDaniel's too friendly with his players, too much of a player's coach. And you know what is a sign of that? Undisciplined penalties. And offsides and illegal formations and unsportsmanlike, those are undisciplined penalties. Those are penalties as a player you don't do when you're scared of your head coach. If you're not scared of your head coach because he's your best friend, you do those because you don't really care. I'm kind of out on the Dolphins, especially with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. I'll tell you who I'm not out on, and that's the Tennessee defense. I know the Tennessee defense did not look good against Green Bay last week. I still have faith in them. I think they're going to play a lot closer to how they played in the first 2 weeks than they did last week. I'll take a -1.5 at even money against the Dolphins in the first Monday Night Football game. What a stinker that game is. The much better of the 2 games will be the second Monday Night Football game. And I told you at the start when I was giving all my picks, I accidentally did not bet an underdog. If I could fix that, and I can't because the picks are already locked in. If I could fix that and make a money line upset pick, it would have been the Seahawks against the Lions. Unfortunately, I'm an idiot. I locked in all my bets before I realized I did not have an upset pick. So I did lock in the Seahawks +4.5. If you want an upset pick this week, it's the Seahawks. I will make 2 next week to make up for it. The Seahawks defense has been unbelievable. Now, it is worth saying, you do have to say, the 3 teams the Seahawks have played so far are the Broncos, Patriots, and the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. Not exactly offenses that are going to strike fear in the heart of their opponents, but their defense has been great in those games. Lead the NFL in opponent yards per play. Teams are only getting 3.9 yards per play against them. Inside the top 5 in both third down defense, red zone defense, and opponent points per play. And it makes sense when you realize their new head coach is the former defensive coordinator of the Ravens when the Ravens had the best defense in the NFL last season. Mike Macdonald might be an elite head coach. Their offense has been good, not great, but good. I would say so far this season, the Seahawks offense and the Lions offense, at least by a lot of statistics, is kind of a wash. So then which side do you trust more in terms of which defense do you like more? I like the Seahawks defense a lot more than the Lions. Lions are at home, which is a slight edge there, but still 4.5 points. I love that bet. If I were to pick an upset pick, it'd be the Seahawks. But I will take the Seahawks +4.5 is the bet I have, and -110 for the final pick of the week. All right, I'll quickly recap my picks and give out my 5 best bets, which you should all fade. And then I'll give out my teaser and I'll talk Survivor. My picks: Cowboys Giants over 44, Broncos +7 against the Jets. Bengals, Panthers over 47.5. Eagles -2.5 against the Bucks. Rams -3 against the Bears. Falcons -1.5 against the Saints. Jaguars +6.5 against the Texans. Vikings +3 against the Packers. Steelers, Colts under 40. Patriots +10 against the 49ers. Cardinals -3.5 against the Commanders. Chiefs -8 against the Chargers. Raiders +1.5 against the Browns. Ravens -1 against the Bills. Titans -1.5 against the Dolphins. Seahawks +4.5 against the Lions. I've gone in with my best bets 1-9 the last 2 weeks. I've told people before, do not tail just my 5 best bets. Tail the ones that you like the most, that you agree with me the most on. But if you want my 5 best bets, you should fade them. But my 5 favorite bets are the Jaguars +6.5, Cardinals -3.5 against Commanders, Steelers, Colts under 40, Raiders +1.5 against the Browns, and the Seahawks against the Lions. My teaser for the week, I'm going to go Chiefs -2. So we're going to take the Chiefs down from -8 down to -2 against the Chargers. Even if Justin Herbert plays, I still like that a lot with the Chargers missing their 2 starting tackles. And 2-point spread is the spread the Chiefs can cover. So Chiefs down, and we are of course down from 8 to 2. We are crossing both the key numbers of 7 and 3. So down from -8 to -2. It's a 6-point teaser. Chiefs -2. They're going to take the Seahawks up from 4.5 up to 10.5. So Seahawks +10.5 against the Lions on Monday night. We are crossing both the key numbers of 7 and the secondary key number of 10. And I think the Seahawks defense can at the least keep this game into the single digits. So teaser of the week. We are 2-1 with these, I think. Did I win week 1? Don't remember. Teaser of the week. Chiefs -2 against Chargers. Seahawks +10.5 against Lions. Survivor. The Bacon Bets podcast Survivor Pool, I am out. There's only 11 entries left. I got to give a shout out to a guy in my DMs who is still alive in it. Hayden had 3 entries. He still has 1 alive in it. And Joey Dan, one of my best friends from back home, still has an entry left in it for $3.6 thousand, I think. It's crazy that it started with 161. We're down to 11 already. I had 2 entries that I was doing in that, and one of them lost week 1 with the Falcons. The other one I went Saints, Chargers, and then Bengals this past week, and that lost. So I am out. I cannot win my own pool. For the sake of my survivor picks on this show, I'm going to go with my Joe Ostrowski's pools, who some of you probably know and follow. Joe Ostrowski, he's been doing a survivor pool in the NFL season for a long time. I have an entry in there that I'm still alive. So that's the one I'm going to go off in terms of my survivor picks. So far in that one, I took Saints in week 1 against the the Panthers, Texans in week 2 against the Bears, and then the Jets in week 3 against the Patriots. Week 4, I'm deciding between 2 teams. I do not know which one I want to go with yet. I will say, if you have the Jets available, now I don't. If you have the Jets, because let me back up. The 49ers are going to be the obvious pick. The 49ers are going to be the most picked team. They are 10-point favorites, and unless Brock Purdy gets ruled out, the 49ers will be the most picked team. I generally advise picking against the most picked team or going a different direction, and the reason for that is exactly what we've seen so far, because if you don't go with the most popular team and the most popular team loses, a huge chunk of the pool gets eliminated. If you haven't chosen the Jets, which I don't really know how you'd still be alive if you have the Jets, because that means that this past week you would have taken who? The Seahawks or the Bills, which only a small percentage of people did. I would probably take the Jets on home to the Broncos. Even though I'm on the Broncos to cover, the Jets do not have a lot of other games this season that I'd want to take them. Losing outright to the Broncos would be a big ask. I think the Jets, if I still had all my teams, I think I'd go Jets, because then you also avoid the 49ers. I'm deciding between doing the obvious thing and taking the 49ers, or I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Those are the two. You know what? You could even go Cowboys on Thursday night. I'll say for this pool, when I took the Jets, it was nice to know I had a survivor entry already alive heading into Sunday because I took the Jets on Thursday against the Patriots. The Cowboys defense gives me cause for concern. So I'm not going to go Cowboys. And if I'm going to take them against the Giants, I'm going to wait till they're at home against the Giants. So I am going to go either the 49ers or the Patriots. Right now, the 49ers or the Cardinals. Right now, the 49ers in. I might change that, though. If Brock Purdy gets ruled out, I'm not going 49ers. The other thing that makes me not go 49ers is the top team keeps getting screwed. The Patriots being one of those teams in week 1 when they beat the Bengals. But still, you have the 49ers. I mean, they're 10-point favorites for a reason. If Brock Purdy plays, they win this game. But if I want to follow my strategy and hope the top pick team gets eliminated, the cute pick is the Cardinals. They're 3.5-point favorites at home. Playing against Commanders team that a lot of people are high on. And there's really no other opportunities to take the Cardinals. Especially if you think, I mean, with how kind of this season has gone, it might not go to week 18, but we're gonna see 90% of pools aren't going to get eliminated every week like what we've been seeing. Cardinals at home to the Commanders. I'm trying to find other games you could take the Cardinals. At home to the Chargers, depending on if Justin Herbert's playing by that point or not. Probably not. On the road to the Dolphins. Tua's probably going to be back by that point, late October. At home to the Bears in November, maybe. On the road in Carolina, December 22nd. That's week 16. Survivor pools probably aren't going to get to that point, to be honest. I think I might go Cardinals at home to the Commanders. And hope the Patriots somehow beat the 49ers. I mean, if you're in a pool with only a few people left, like if you're one of the 11 remaining entries in the Bacon Bets pool and you take Cardinals and the Patriots beat the 49ers, you might win your pool this week. That'd be crazy. Winning a Survivor pool after week 4 would be bananas. So that's my thoughts on Survivor. I'm going to make my official pick for the podcast right now, the Cardinals. I'm going to highlight that in my notes so I remember. I don't remember what my official pick last week, if it was the Bengals or the Jets. Someone DM me, said thank you for the Jets pick, and I'm still alive in my Survivor, so I at least brought up the Jets. I think I'm going to go Cardinals. Try to win it. Try to get down to the last 10 people right now. Yeah, we'll see. There you have it. I'm going to go Cardinals for Survivor. All right, I've given you my best bets, teaser bet, all my picks for Week 16, Week 4, the road to 272 bets continues. Subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. Let's get hot. Let's have a winning week. It's time to bounce back. Because I'm fine right now with where we're at. If I have another losing week, I'm going to start getting upset. So let's avoid that. Let's go Falcons. Let's go all my bets. Let's go all your bets. Gambler bless. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. I'll be back Thursday morning with Player Prop Countdown, where I count down my top 10 player props for each week. I will say I'm doing better in player props than size and total so far this season. So tune into that, and I'll talk to you then.